Hey, Homestead Tessie. Let me say hi to everybody. All right. Before I say hi to everybody, thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for the love and support that you guys have been showing me. I know I've been a little off the wall since yesterday, but here's the skinny, okay? Howie went to Hull in an ambulance this morning and they did an angiogram. Some of you will know this already from our half acre homestead. They did an angiogram and they found the cardiologist called me during my live stream earlier and said that you have 3 arteries in your heart and 2 of them were severely clogged. There were 3 blockages in 2 of his arteries. But they were able to put stents in, which means they went in through his arm and down into his heart, and they have these little, I guess they're like a spring-loaded tube on a wire, and then when they get there, they can activate it, and it springs open, and it opens the blockage, and then it becomes a part of the artery. They said that he will be off work minimum 2 to 4 weeks. I've already talked to his boss. And I asked him, when he got back to Wakefield, I said, is there anything you want? Because he said, I need some underwear. Because I know, like, Briar was able to take it in and they delivered it to him, but they wouldn't let him in, right, yesterday. But now that he's back at the hospital, I got him a change of clothes, a couple pairs of underwear, a pair of comfy boxers. I took him in some all fruit juice gummies just for a treat, because you can't go see someone in the hospital without giving them a treat, especially when I can put my hands on them. I got him a new toothbrush and a $10 set of headphones so that he can listen to his phone and look at videos while he's there. Now, he should be home tomorrow or the next day if everything goes as planned. But I dropped the stuff off at the hospital. Briar was there for moral support in the truck with Gracie, but he didn't want to go in because they gave him such a hard time about the lunch he took him yesterday, right? So, all right, nobody's going to give me a hard time. Not now. I walked into the hospital. I said, my husband's here. He's being booked, but he's in one of the emergency areas. And I need to give him this bag. I need someone to give him this bag. So they took it. They said, what's his name? And they took it. And I went outside to the parking lot. And Briar was going, Mom, because he had my phone. Dad said, the nurse said you could come in. So I went back in the hospital. And as the nurse came through the double door, she said, Mrs. Foley, you can go right back. It's door number 5 at the end. So that's the first time he's actually sat up. They've got him in a room. They've got him in a room, a little, like, he's in his room now. But when I was there, he was still, like, in this room where there's no bathrooms because it's kind of isolation or something. So, and he was laying on a gurney with a plastic divider between him and the next person, and he was peeing in a jug with no privacy. And poor baby, right? And he's laying on a gurney with his ass hanging out of the gown because they took his underwear in Hull and didn't give him back. So I went in and I plugged in his earphones and I bought him a new charge cord because I knew the one Briar had for him wasn't going to be long enough, and I didn't know where his plug was going to be in relation to his bed. So I gave him an extra long charge cord and I set him up with the headphones. And then he sat up and I took his gown off and I slipped on his underwear and a pair of clean underwear and a pair of boxers. And so that's why you're seeing sit him up. He's like, yes, I'm out of the hospital gown, so to speak. Of course, I mean, the hardest thing, like yes, he's resting better now. He's resting much better. Sorry, just an absolute brain fart. I finally got to put my hands on my husband. That's the hardest thing. Okay, that was the absolute hardest thing whatsoever, was My dad's had heart attacks, how and bypasses. Howie's dad, Howie's mom. It's not something new. It's one of the reasons that quitting smoking and quitting drinking and eating and living a healthier lifestyle became so important, because he was a walking time bomb. They figured he would have dropped dead by the time he was 30, right? If we hadn't made all these changes. So he's now up in his room. He may actually show up here if he finds the link. Well, I know. You know what? I'd rather that, if it means saving his embarrassment or saving his life, we'll save his life first and deal with the embarrassment later, right? I had family and friends phoning me and comforting me, and it's like, okay, listen, it's all good news. He hasn't died. He hasn't even, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, guys, I have a program of recovery. Yes, I'm freaking out, but not because of what's going on. Yeah, a little bit, but I know he's in the best possible hands, because Hull has some of the best cardiologists in the country, right? I knew everything was in. It's just that Howie's never spent a night in the hospital since we've been together in 31 years. Now, I've spent many nights in the hospital, but I always woke up to his face, right? Who was he going to wake up to? That was really the hardest thing for me to handle. That was really the hardest thing for me to handle, was not being able to be there. So, sorry, I'm okay. I'm a little bit sweaty. I just got out of the pool. My eyes are all sweaty and stuff. So, that's what's going on. Right? He should be home in a couple of days, and we can go from there. So I'm going to post the pictures in Facebook, but yes, I got to kiss my love, and I got to smell his breath and look in his eyes and check the color of his skin and feel the temperature of his skin, know that he wasn't clammy or anything. The only thing that was bothering him was the arm that they went in through to put the stents with. But, okay, so let me say hi to everybody, or try to anyway. Oh, my goodness. Amy, Billy, Seashell, Cecil, Donna, Homestead Tessie, Jean, Jean Milne, Jean Phillips, Joyce, hi, Lady J, Laura Higgins, Lisa Ryder, Lisa Stratham, Martin, hello, darling, Meredith, Monica, Lone Star, hey, FEMA Region 5, Paula, Sherry, Stacy, Bourbon, Lady B, Apiary, Tony, and Willows. So, I can breathe now. Until I got to touch him. There's something really intrinsically almost instinctive. Oh, sorry, I'm not back on live chat here. Very instinctive about, you need to see that they're okay. Everybody in the world can tell you you're okay. But until you feel if their skin is clammy, or that they're feverish, or that their eyes are clear, or they're making sure that they can breathe deep without pain. All these things you're taking in a heartbeat. I used to work in a nursing home, okay? So you take all this stuff in a heartbeat, right? And it's like, okay, now, the football that I have been carrying around in the middle of my chest for the last 24 hours or more is finally, I can breathe. I can breathe. So, okay, Martin, thank you, darling. Thank you so very much. So, that's what's going on. And it just feels like the last 24 hours have been so unreal. I feel like I've been running on like adrenaline, right? Hey, Trina, how's it going? Well, so hi, Karen Doc. How's it going? He will heal much better. Like how he said, Bev, He said, I'm a genetic time bomb. So are you. It runs in our family. Right? And Briar's looking at me like this when I told him that. And I said, Briar, you don't drink alcohol. You don't smoke cigarettes. We gave those up years ago, but they did their damage. Right? You exercise. Well, not so much. I said, no, you are making an attempt to eat healthier. You've cut out pop. You eat healthier. You exercise. You don't drink alcohol. You don't smoke cigarettes. You don't do drugs, Briar. You are on the absolute right path to be a healthy man, way beyond your father's years. Yeah, if we had made all these decisions before, it would have been a no-brainer, right? But I'm telling you, the reason how he is alive with only 3 stents in his heart is because of all those changes we've made over the last 30 years. What do I need right now besides Mr. Wolfie? Nothing. Nothing. I got everything. Gratitude. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that my husband's alive. I'm so grateful I got to put my hands on him. I'm so grateful that I got a hold of Nan after the live stream this afternoon. And I'm so grateful that, one person went, where's all your family? Where's your kids? Where's this? It's like, my family lives all over the place. And until I knew exactly what was going on, there's no sense alarming everybody. This is what I was trying to explain to my brother, right? He's like, well, if it's a comfort to you, I say, no, honey, seriously. I have faith that my husband we've done absolutely everything correct. Okay? That's not where my issue is. He is in the place he needs to be, in the hands he needs to be. They're just not mine. That's the only thing that was driving me absolutely batshit crazy. Nan is fine. Her and Karen were out for a beautiful drive, and they went down to the Picton area and stuff. I guess went down to see the sandbanks or whatever. And it's almost funny because I phoned and left her a message on her cell phone saying, Mom, what's the point of having a cell phone if you don't turn it on when you're out of the house, or it isn't turned loud enough where you can hear it? I got an immediate call back because she wasn't answering before. And so they pulled over to call me, her and Karen. And I told them what was going on. And I said, look, Mom, when you get home, there's going to be 5 messages on your machine. And the last one is the one telling you the information I'm about to give you now. But please forgive me if I sound rushed or stressed or harried or even a bit bitchy when I'm leaving you the messages. Because really all I wanted was Mom, And she said, go tell me. So I told her. And she was really calm. She was really cool. She said, do you need me to come up? And it's like, nope. Let's wait. Everything is being done that can be done. I just was panicking because I couldn't get a hold of her. And I did not want her to hear it somewhere else. You know what I mean? Well, I know. It's like, why aren't you at his side? It's like, because they wouldn't let me in. Right? They wouldn't these are restrictions that once he had the stent and he'd come back COVID negative, right? He'd had the stents and he was brought back to the hospital to wait for his room, which he's in now. Until then, there's really nothing that can be done except, try and keep me from tearing down bricks in the hospital to get to him. Do you know what I mean? So my hubby had a left shoulder replacement on 7/13. I have been busy with him. I bet. Thank you. He. Well, I mean, I didn't care if he was COVID negative. I didn't even wait. I just kissed him anyway. So when I had my eye surgery, no one was allowed with me. It was scary. Well, see, that's the thing. In our 31 years together, yes, we've been married 28 years, but we've been together 31. He's never been overnight in the hospital that I've been a party to. Like, he's gone to the hospital in the middle of the night when he's had something steal in his eye or whatever, and I couldn't get it out or whatever. But he's never actually been admitted to the hospital overnight at all in our entire 31 years. And that's what was driving me absolutely. I was stricken, because it's like, I know how important it is to wake up to a loving face, right? When you've just, or have somebody saying, it's okay, I'm going to be right here when you come out. I know how that, and he's done that for me. And the one time he needed me, they wouldn't let me do it. Oh, he doesn't know. This is the thing. I'm telling you, it's a genetic thing. My friend Sarah, who wrote the books, Grandy's Gift and that, she said she's like a vegetarian, and they told her that she had to go on cholesterol meds. And she said, but I'm a vegetarian. I'm extremely healthy. And they said, it doesn't matter. Some people are genetically predisposed, and nothing you can do is going to change it. And so when he said, considering mom and dad and all those things, he said, really? He's a walking miracle, because by rights, if we had waited much longer, if he had gone back to work today or tomorrow, he might have dropped dead. He might have dropped dead. He had one unblocked artery in his heart. Hey, Mary Jane. At discharge time, they will give him papers with diet changes. They're all there. The only thing I'm going to do to change is he's going to start having less bread, even though we give him 12 grain bread, right? Less potato. I already know this, okay? Less potatoes, less starches, less rice, less red meat, less pork, more vegetables. It's that simple. I know what he's got to do. So, I was in a new town in the hospital for 5 days and no visitors allowed. It was terrible. Thank God for cell phones. Well, yeah. I was watching the camper fix-up video, just was struck by his soft-spoken and loving nature. He is my heart. I've said it a million times, and I no longer listen to the negative Nellies that say, oh, you work him like a mule, and oh, you think of him as your next meal ticket and all that shit. It's like, you know what? I don't have the energy to deal with that kind of stuff. It took me 12 years to learn that on my channel, I have the right to block and delete anybody, not anybody who doesn't agree with me, but anybody who's going to be truly mean and negative. Like, say, I'm really sorry about Howie, but then put a paragraph this long about how I abuse him. It's like, please just go away, Those women are just, I don't even go there. I don't even go there. So, I dropped Briar back off because he stayed out in the truck with Gracie, because there was no way I was leaving Gracie at home, because she knows she's been stuck to me. Where is she? Like glue. Now she's in her bed. She's much more relaxed. See her? Can you see her there? In her bed? Uh-oh, here she comes. Gracie, mommy, baby. Daddy gonna come home tomorrow or the next day? And you've been such a good girl. You've been looking after mommy. Yes, my dear. Yes. Oh my goodness. Do you want a treat? Would you like a treat? Oh my goodness. What's that? Oh, nums. Gotta tell everybody the Plano's Paw draw is on the 9th. Can I kiss? Thank you. There you go. Nobody can tell me. Ooh, excuse me. I almost flashed folks here. Nobody can tell me she's not an emotional support animal. She is very. She would not leave my side, right? If I had left her in the house, she would have probably acted out, and that's something she's never done because she knows something's going on. So as long as she was a part of the process of going to the store, and Briar was in the truck, so we didn't have to leave her in the truck or anything. He stayed with her, and I got to get a package. Hey, Willows, Gracie can sense your emotion and she's been worried about you. Absolutely. She's been my emotional support dog long before I even knew that was her job. She chose that job, and she wouldn't let Frankie or nobody come between me and her, and she said, "You're mine." That's it. Yes, she looks after Daddy and she loves her daddy, but Mommy is her. Mommy, she owns me. Your new spiritual awakening was preparing you for this. Blessings to you, Howie, and your family. Snuggles for Gracie. Well, you know what? Thank you, Kel Storm. As a big boy, heard he say he loved his wife and that's why he helps. Believe he said while you were on vacation. Hard to imagine how he's sick. He seems so tough. Well, he thinks he does. The reason he's COVID negative is he thinks we had it before it hit here. Because they didn't have tests for it, right? Gracie's very in tune with me. What did Howie feel? How did he know to go to the hospital? Okay, hey, Ken. All right, I'll tell you what happened, okay? We came home from the races Sunday morning because it was rained out. And his car broke down on Friday at the Gamblers race anyway. And he didn't want to push it. So we came home. It was raining anyway. And he had Monday off. And Monday he spent all of Sunday removing the motor from his car. Now he has a block and tackle, and I think I was on a live stream when I went, "Is that a block and tackle I hear?" And he said yes. So later on Sunday night or Monday afternoon, I think it was Sunday night, Monday afternoon, he was complaining of chest pains, and it wouldn't be the first time, okay, that he has had muscle-related chest pain. And I said, "Is it from the motor?" He said, "No, I use the block and tackle." So I asked him all the questions. I took his pulse. I asked if he felt if his scalp was lifting off his head with blood pressure, or if there was pressure behind his eyes, or was he having trouble breathing, or was he short of breath, or any of those things. Was he clammy? No. Was he feverish? No. Okay. So I said, I should call an ambulance. And he said, no. And I said, the moment you think there might be a problem, you have to tell me. Because I can't read your mind. I only know what you tell me. So he ended up going to work on Tuesday and on Wednesday. So yesterday, he hadn't said, he just said he was feeling, he felt he still had it, but it wasn't as bad, and he felt fine enough to go to work. Hey, Jane. So he went to work, and then I can only go on what he's telling me. I make him a Costco list because yesterday was payday. And I made him a list for Costco for the bare essentials, right? And he texted me back, said, I really don't feel like it, but I'll do it. And then so I called him and said, what's going on? And he said, I'm in a lot of pain. I said, in your chest? He said, yes. He said, Bev, I had to sit down. And I went, go to the hospital. And I said, Howard, you promised, kind of thing. Go to the hospital. So medical. Oh, Joanne, that's awesome. Yay. That's wonderful. Well, he had some nausea, but I didn't know that was part of that, right? See, there's all the hearts in my family, and I still, right? There's still things you miss. I'm not a doctor, right? But I said, go to the hospital. And I assumed that he was going to call an ambulance and go to the hospital in Ottawa. The bugger got in his car and drove to Wakefield, which is almost an hour drive, a little over an hour drive from where he works. And he phoned me halfway there. And I said, where are you? And he said, I'm in the car. I said, where are you going? He said, to Wakefield, but it's subsiding. And I could hear him. I could hear it. Okay. When he said it's subsiding, I heard him as clear as a bell say, maybe I should just come home. Now that was what's going on in his head. All he said was it's subsiding. And I said, no, you go straight to the hospital, please. Go straight to the hospital. I didn't want to get angry or freaky deaky on him or anything. I just had to be firm. I said, you left work because of chest pain. You said you were going to the hospital. I need you to go to the hospital. So he went to the Wakefield Hospital and he sent me a picture of him in a hospital gown with a mask on. It's like, okay, that doesn't fill me with confidence, right? So I phoned him and he said they've done an EKG and they see something on the EKG, but they won't know until the blood work comes back. And I'm thinking blood work, and then apparently, right, your body, when you have a heart attack, your body releases an enzyme into the blood, and they can damn near pinpoint right to when you've had a heart attack, right? So So then he called me back after his blood work came back and he said, I think I may have had a heart attack. And I said, okay, where's the doctor? I need to talk to the doctor, right? And he said, you know, the doctor was talking to another patient and then she came over and he said, would you please explain to my wife? Well, that's what they say, right? I mean, let's face it, my brother Billy's had a bypass surgery, my cousin Jimmy, my mother-in-law, my dad, my father-in-law. I mean, this is not new stuff. At least it's something I can wrap my head around because I'm familiar with it. But, so the doctor came and he gave her the phone. He said, could you please explain to my wife what's going on? And she said, okay. So she got on the phone and she said, this is Dr. So-and-so. She said, your husband's had a heart attack in the last couple of days. And he needs to go as soon as we can, you know, get things organized. He needs to go to Hull for she said an angioplasty, but what she meant was because she's very French, so there was a bit of a communication thing. It was angiogram, which is, so I said, can I come? And she said, no, it's better if he just rests, right? You stay home. We'll know more in the morning when he goes to Hull. And I said, well, can't I go with him? And they said, no, you cannot go with him. A nurse will go with him. And so then after he left, I phoned the hospital in Hull and said, I'm looking for my husband. And they said, and I gave them all the details. They said, he's just arrived. And the cardiologist will call you. He's going to go in for his angiogram. He's just going in now. And the cardiologist will call you when it's done. And I said, why can't I be there? And I said, he's never been through anything like this in 30 years. And she said, it's COVID restrictions. She said, and I said, well, and she said, I understand. And I said, okay. So I got a text about 2 hours later, and honest to God, I can laugh now. It said, all went, 3 stents, talk, go back. So I filled in the gaps and went, all went well. I have 3 stints. I'll talk to you when I get back to my room or whatever, right? So in the meantime, I had family on the phone with my, you know, because I have, you know, an extensive family full of people who have heart issues, right? But they basically said that, you know, this is it's a genetic disposition because we quit smoking years ago, we quit drinking years ago. You know, we eat healthy, right? And we've lived a healthier lifestyle, but they said it just doesn't matter. With some people, it just doesn't matter. But the fact that we have made all these changes is the reason he didn't drop dead 10 years ago. Right? It's the same in the States. That's okay. I got in to see him, and I will post the pictures over on the Connected Hearts Facebook page. Because, I could see when I walked in. You don't necessarily see your spouse. You see their inner child. And he was by himself, stuck in a corner, pissing in a jar because he wasn't in a room yet, and hooked up to all these wires with an intravenous coming out of each arm. So it's like, okay, I know exactly what I got to do. Hey, baby, I snuck you in some treats, kind of thing. Yes, they were healthy treats. They were fruit juice gummies. So, where's Howie? Hey, baby. I was just there's Howie, everybody. Say hi to Howie. He's in a room now, and he's got earphones for his phone, and he's got treats and an iced tea. And hopefully he'll be home tomorrow or the next day. Howard Foley, be glad that's you. I almost deleted your comment. Thinking his color is good. His breathing was good. His temperature was good. Only thing hurting was the arm that they did it in. So I hope you're reading all these comments, Howie. I hope you're reading all these comments. Howie, Mike sent a whole bunch of messages that I'm going to forward them to you because they're really funny. He basically said you got your rings and valves done. And Wendy sends her love. Bob and Kathy send their love. Billy said he's probably going to come up in the next couple of weeks. I'm gonna fill Mom in. She's already been filled in on all that stuff, but I'll call her. She's gonna call me when they get back to the apartment tonight. Yeah, it's a miracle. And all I can say is thank God we have changed our lifestyle when we did. Or see, my dad dropped dead in the emergency room at age 49. I know how fast it can happen. And the only reason my father survived was because he was in the hospital standing at reception when he died. Right? My dad was dead for a full minute before they started to bring him back. Right? Hey, Angela. So yes, there he is, folks. Say hi. Howie is in the house. Okay, he's in the chat. He's in the chat. Howie, my husband and I are so happy to see you're doing better. We have been praying for you both. So that's the news. Howie, do you want me to read your cards and find out what comes next? I have got to clean up the house first because for the last 24 hours I have ignored the dishes. I actually haven't made any dishes. So I just got to vacuum and unload and load the dishwasher. And the football that I've been carrying around, like Briar too. Briar said, it's weird, my dad's had a heart attack and I'm having chest pains. I said, it's okay, Briar, it's anxiety. It's stress. Breathe deep. And he went, like I said, he went with me for the ride just as support and so he could be there. The man, the myth, the legend. No. My granddaughter and I are sending healings. Oh yeah, there is my cousin Donna. Her boarder passed away. Her boarder Pat, from the exact same thing. It just happened to Howie. They didn't get to her in time. And her funeral service was today, and the church where Donna goes is going to be saying a prayer for you, Howie, before the service today. So you got a lot of people who love and you other than me. Okay, you just can't have them all except me. You can only have me. Yes. 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 So I actually went downstairs today because I knew that, I remember when my dad had been into the hospital many times with heart issues. And when I was 17 or 18, I came home from visiting cousins and my dad was already in the hospital. And my brother-in-law had to go back to the city. And so it was me and Wendy. But the basement had like 6 or 7 bags of garbage in it. And Dad was coming home from the hospital the next day. And the garbage had to go to the dump. Right? So I said to Wendy, I'm taking it to the dump. I had only driven stick twice. But I got in that 3 and a tree Ford and I slammed 7 bags of garbage into the truck and I drove to the dump. And thank God my brother-in-law in the past had been allowing me to drive around town with him in the passenger seat since I was 16. So the cops all just assumed I had my driver's license. So when I got to the dump, my neighbor was there. And I said, I'm just not sure if I put it in reverse, if I'm going to back right off the dump hill. And he goes, I'll do it, Bev, don't worry. So the garbage went, and I got back to the house because I knew that my father would come home from the hospital and the first thing he would see, because he would see the garbage in the basement and he would go to the dump. That's just the way my dad was. So let's jump forward to Howie. What's the one pressing issue that would wake you up in the middle of the night and you would have to phone me, Howie? The dehumidifier, right? So I heard the dehumidifier. We have a wonky dehumidifier and we need a new one, but that's just one of the things on the list, right? So I could hear the dehumidifier running, and what happens is the bobble or something is wrong and it overflows. Sometimes it'll stop and sometimes it won't, and it'll overflow all over the floor and it'll just keep running. And I heard the dehumidifier and I went, oh shit. So I made it down the basement and it was just starting to overflow, and I threw down towels and I emptied it and I shut it off. And I decided to have a look at my living room wall down there where I'm going to put up my green screen. Are you still here, Howie? Are you still here? Okay, Willow, you take care, sweetheart. I just really came on to update everybody and let everybody know that I saw him. I tasted him. I smelled him. He's going to survive. If I have to do the next stints myself. God forgive, there will be no more. So oh, and when I was downstairs, look what else I found. I still can't find my black and purple one, but these were my mother-in-law's. They were down the basement. Better not do that or Howie might get ideas and put his blood pressure up. Okay, Mary Jane, I'll call you when I'm done, okay, sweetheart? And thank you, Mary Jane. Mary Jane is going to her son's wedding on Saturday. And I can't wait to see the pictures. So, I'm going to have a puff. And are there any questions? Does anybody want a reading? Or I'm just really, really, really... Yes, but I'm going to bug. I've got a little... You've got to rest a little. Okay, sweetheart. All right, you call me later. Your earphones were only $10. I hope they work well. for what you need them for. And call me later, or I'll call you. I'll text you. And if you're, so make sure your text is on, and I'll text you. And if you're up to a phone call, I'll call you after, okay? I love you, Howie. Rest, and I'll see you tomorrow, one way or another, okay? Yell out, Bev, about your request that we stream. Tell us how to support you best. Yell out, Bev, about your request that we stream. Tell us how to support you best. You already have. You guys are playing the videos on my reading channel, this channel, on our half acre homestead. You know what I mean? That's a big deal, right? Oh, baby Joe, how's Scott, darling? You just missed Howie, Joe. He was in here for a few minutes. He's in his room in the hospital, and if they don't let him out tomorrow, I get to go visit him and spend some time with him. Hopefully in the evening, and that way I can pick Briar up on my way home, kind of thing. So, so yeah, I mean, I'll be able to sleep tonight. Mrs. Bev, tie a ribbon around his wrist that they went through for the stent. It was his right one. He doesn't need to put any pressure on that wrist. I did that for my husband. Oh my God. Okay. Philly, I'm not going to protest anymore. I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support in the most harrowing 24. How he's gone, right? The most harrowing 24 hours that I can remember. Since I don't know when. So, hey, Jeannie Fogel. Yeah, Howie went to rest, and he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. I'm going to get off here soon, and I'm going to go unload and load the dishwasher and run a vacuum around the living room, and I'm going to have some supper. The supper I made for supper yesterday that never got eaten. I'm going to have some chicken and rice and fresh green beans. So he remembers not to use it. Okay, absolutely. That's a good idea. Oh, and I took him a change of clothes for when he comes home. I took him 2 pairs of underwear, a pair of boxers. I forgot his socks, so I'll take him some socks, or at least flip-flops if he has to stay in another night. And I know, Joe, you know what, folks? Hear me. I am not worried anymore about my husband. We averted a possible fatal catastrophe. 2 of his 3 main arteries were completely blocked, severely blocked. Okay? Everything happened exactly as it was supposed to. The only real stress I was going through is I couldn't get to him. Okay? And I was stressed because he's always been there for me when I've woken up from a surgery, procedure, anything. And I couldn't do that for him. And it was eating my heart out, literally. So, hey, Aldo. So, get some joy just for being. Thank you. I'm just going to say thank you. I'm okay, Aldo. I'm okay. I got to see Howie. He had 3 stents. He had 3 blockages fixed with stents. And God help me, Briar looked it all up on the internet and said, okay, Mom, this is what it looks like. And he drew me a picture. He said it's like, you know how, this is the way I kind of picture it in my head. You know when they do a skin graft? and they kind of shave a little spot, and then it opens up like a piece of mesh. Well, that's kind of like this stint, I guess, they put on the probe they were putting down up it through his arm and down into his heart. This stint fits snugly, I guess, on the thing. And once they get it where they want it, they slide it into the blockage, and then it's spring loaded and it opens up, and it opens the blockage, and that stint heals into place, keeping the artery open. It's like the miracles of modern medicine. Honest to God, right? I needed to, it wasn't just to see, it wasn't just because I wanted to be there for him. I needed to see him. I needed to see his skin color, his skin temperature, hear his breathing, smell his breath. There's all these things I go through in my head, right? PETA, it's the best. It is reading with Mrs. Wolfe, I think. Goodbye, podcasts. How is Howie feeling? He's doing much better. The only pain he's in is with his arm, where they went in. And so I will send him a text and remind him that he should not, use that arm or lay on it or anything like that. So, hey, Mary Jane Weeds! Celebrate this time, come on! So, hey, Peggy! Peggy, how's your hubby doing, sweetheart? I mean, aren't we all just going through... What, my baby? Excuse me, Gracie wants to go out. I'm going to tilt my phone up because I don't necessarily want to flash anybody. I'm wearing a dress, but I'm just not sure how easy it's going to be. You got to go babies outside? All right. Oh, all right, my baby. Okay. All right. Oh my goodness. Oof. Oof. Yes, my clouds. Bows and flows of angel hair. Well, you know what? Do you know what, Jane Phillips? Watch what, Laura Higgins? I spent over $300 on different things I've needed for the house, the animals, and the cat. I wasn't satisfied, so I called customer service. I got to keep the items and got a full refund. Wow, that's awesome. He's out playing cards tonight. Well, that's the thing is Howie's these blockages are a genetic thing. Right? So it's something that even though we don't drink, we don't smoke, we eat as healthy as we possibly can, it's still something we have to watch. So I told him, I said, we're going to be cutting way back on the potatoes and the rice. There'll be less potatoes, less rice, more vegetables. I've seen some things on TikTok that were really cool. Somebody cut a green pepper in half and then scooped out the seeds and everything, and then filled it with like chicken egg salad or chicken salad with vegetables and stuff instead of bread. And it was like he could pick up her boyfriend could pick up a half a pepper and just eat it like that. So if he goes back to work, and there's a big if there, when he goes back to work, there's going to be a whole new change in routine. Freaky Friday, and also your makeup. Watched your short last night and you were gorgeous. Well, I've been playing. Um, oh, leaving on a jet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. But that's not kind of the song I want to sing right now, so. Oh, mac and cheese with cauliflower. Well, see, there's all these things I've been practicing on anyway. But as for Patreon, it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday live streams. And what's happening, and those are patron unlisted streams. And what that is it's going to be evolving a bit because I do patrons unlisted live streams on Monday, Wednesdays, and we do Freaky Friday. Well, as soon as I get my studio set up downstairs, I'm going to do card readings once or twice a month in Patreon in full glamour because it's a lot of work. And once a month, I will probably come on here and do card readings, right? No, I haven't done a damn thing I haven't done anything except wait for news. I've unloaded the dishwasher for the most part. I've swept. I've been, you know what I mean? Just, and once I realized how he said, "Can you bring me some underwear?" It was like, yes, I have a job to do. So, like I said, I packed him up 2 pairs of clean underwear, a pair of boxers, clean pair of jeans, and a t-shirt for him to come home in. And the t-shirt is his Team Wolfie t-shirt. That was I put that in there deliberately. So, yes, I do card readings. Right now, I'm only doing Work Your Light Oracle and Moonology. And I'm still getting to know these cards. This is nothing new in my life. It's just something I'm choosing to share now as I go forward into life with the Wolfies after the homestead. Hi, Stacy. How are you? Hey, Bama Missy. I ran your channel while I was sleeping today, and you were there with me in my dreams. Well, thank you. You also got another job part-time 3 days a week at an orchard. It's wonderful. Just me and 15 acres of fruit trees, thinning them out. When do you sleep, Aldo? Because I don't want to be hearing about you needing heart surgery, right? But this is the thing. It was the best case scenario that they handled it today, the way they handled it with the stents. And, yeah, there's going to be some changes, but the worst, I pray God, the worst is over. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you. Even Briar and I have been going around with like tight chests, and I recognize the feeling. It's stress, right? But I keep repeating myself. I just had to be able to touch and see and smell and kiss my husband, okay? And then I could breathe. So I went in and I helped him get out of the hospital gown and put on a pair of underwear and a pair of boxers so that he could be me and myself again. Because he was in a temporary room with no underwear on in a hospital gown laying on his side. It's like no dignity, no, So, the orchard is a friend of family about 4 hours, 3 days a week. Awesome. Can you take this wrench away now? You don't want it? Okay. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There you go, Joe Mama. Go out and come back in. Thank you. So, I was a patron back when all that mess went on, so I can join patron again. Oh, okay. Hey, Cali Chaos. Bev, for your own spirit, let's hear your best memory with Papa. You are a fantastic storyteller. Tell us one. Oh, that's a great idea. You all know how he proposed to me, right? Everybody knows how he proposed to me. Did I tell you about the night we jumped the broom? Oh, honey, no worries. No worries, Joe. You got enough going on. So, She did look good in blue, though, right? The night we jumped the broom, of course, we were drunk. Okay, gotta remember this back in the 1990. And okay, so we helped our friends move. The friends who introduced us lived next door to me in the townhouses. And that's how they introduced Howie and I. I mean, they were bound and bent that they were going to introduce Howie and I, and they did, and it was fait accompli, right? Hey, Wendy! Thank you, honey. And we helped them move out to, they had bought a mobile home in a park out in Fraserville. And so we went out with them, and once the move was complete, it was like 11:30 at night, and we were exhausted, but Howie and I were half cut. And and it was also Howie's sister's 10th wedding anniversary. And so we decided, and she lived in that trailer park with her first husband. So we went over to visit. And Carrie and Rob were like, no, we're too exhausted, right? But before we went to visit, right, I said, okay, so how are you going to get to my house on the weekends now? Because Rod lives here, and you all work in Fraserville, and you live in Millbrook. So, and I said, I mean, I could give you a key so that, you know, whenever you get a ride, you can come. And he was going to say, that's funny. He said, I was thinking that I'm paying rent on an apartment I never use. And we just looked at each other, and I said, so you moving in? When are you moving in? Okay. He moved in like 3 days later. Okay. But hey, Angie and Wendy, my sister, my cousin, and all my YouTube family. So after everything was settled and we were, we were talking about this move in, and Howie had said to me beforehand when the first weekend we were together, on his phone with the app. So he was just asking me for the password. So anyway, he had asked me to marry him our first or second weekend together. And so we decided to make a pact while we were at Rod and Carrie's. They laid a broom on the floor, and Howie and I spoke vows to each other, and we held hands, and we jumped the broom into the land of matrimony. Now, as far as we were concerned, that day, July 4th, 1990, we were married. But it wasn't until I got pregnant with Briar that his mother kind of, that's it, you're getting married, blah, 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 blah. So we actually solidified the union. But after we jumped the broom, we went to visit his sister, and it was raining, and it's 2:00 in the morning, and we found daisies, and he stuck them in my hair. And honest to God, we jumped through puddles. And I'm not going to tell you else what we did in the rain, but you can use your imagination. We were young and happy. So, yeah, I'm streaming. I just needed, I make healthy meals for us, but when he goes to town, he sneaks the junk food. Well, see, that's one thing Howie's going to have to learn. He's going to have to learn to drink tea instead of coffee. I don't know why it's better, but he's just going to have to. They gave him tea in the hospital, so. Yeah, so we have been married in our hearts since July 4th, 1990. And we got married to the closest date we could book in our backyard in 1993 when Briar was 5 months old and Arthur was 5. And our children were present at our wedding. Is there a rainstorm coming? Chose to love my daughter. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Howie came right at the right time to teach Arthur how to pee standing up. I wasn't sure I was going to do it. But then again, I was so often at my sister's house. And she had 3 sons and a husband. Pretty sure we would have figured it. I would have figured out how to teach him how to stand peeing up. But My husband also chose to love my daughter and I as if we were the one, if he were the one with us from the beginning. That demonstrates being sought after. Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, the first night, the first night, okay, yeah, I slept with him the first night. I was a tart. But I mean, once he kissed me on the cheek, you all know the story of how he leaned across the. They trapped me into a game of euchre, because they only lived 2 doors down from me at the time before we jumped the broom. They trapped me into a game of euchre as needing a fourth, and I said, "No, I got to put Arthur to bed." And they said, "Oh, bring him. You're 2 doors down, right?" So I brought Arthur and his teddy bear and his bottle. He was just turned 2. And he had turned 2 in February, and this was June. We met on June 2nd. So my Scott hasn't had coffee since the morning of the surgery, and he drank almost 2 pots a day. Well, I mean, we're all going to do what we have to do, right? So Arthur's really lucky. He's grown up with 2 fathers. He's really lucky because his bio dad's always been a part of his life. I'm gonna write. I do write them down. I keep journals, guys. Right? So we were playing euchre, and he was my partner, and we were playing like around a coffee table. So he sat down on the couch, and I sat down on a footstool across from him, and that's how we kind of arranged around the coffee table. But Arthur was on the couch, and he went and sat down beside Howard. And he was in his PJs. He'd had his bath and everything, and he had his bottle and his teddy. And he looked at him and said, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" And Arthur just went around his nipple and went, boom, and leaned against him. And it was like Howie was gone. Howie was lost right then and there. But when he pulled a trick off the table that saved my ass, because I had gone, I had made it on Jack and left and ace. And I said, "I could kiss you for that." And he came across the coffee table very slowly, giving me time to pull away, and he kissed me on the cheek. And I had to leave the room because my blusher, I thought, was broken, and it wasn't. And then he followed me into the kitchen, and he said, "Are you okay?" He said, "Was I out of line?" As drunk as he was already. Or was I out of line? And I said, "No, I'm not used to this." And he cupped my face, and he kissed me. And it literally was all over for me. They talk about chemical reactions. When his saliva, let's say, mixed with mine, it created a chemical reaction that still happens every time he kisses me. My knees turn to butter, my spine turns to water, and all the elastic in my underwear just disappears. You know what I mean? So the next day, not the next day, the weekend after that, I went up to visit my dad. And because I didn't have a driver's license, Howie had a driver's license but no car, and I had no car. So I went up to I phoned Dad and said, "Can I come up and visit?" And he said, "Sure. When do you want to come?" So he came down and got me like on a Tuesday. And come Friday, Howard showed up with Rod and Carrie, and he went down the hall to my door, and I wasn't home. And I had told him I was going to see my dad, right? And he went back to Rod and Carrie and said, "Where's my old lady?" And I'd never heard old lady before. Well, I'd heard it, but I didn't understand it. And they said, "She's gone to her dad's." So the next thing you know, I'm getting a phone call Friday night at my father's from Howard. And I said, "Hello?" And he said, "Hi, Bev." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "It's Howard." And I went, my whole body reacted. "Howie?" Because he tracked me down. The next day, he paid for the gas for Rod and Carrie to bring him up to Apsley from Peterborough to pick me and Arthur up. So Rod and Howie and Arthur sat in the back seat. And when Arthur got in the car with his teddy bear, he looked at Howie and gave him a great big grin and handed him his teddy bear. And it was like Howie was in love. That was it. My son became his son. And then he had to introduce me to his best friends, and this is where it gets kind of cute. He took me to meet his best friends, and he introduced me to Nelson and Patsy and Farley. And he turned around and he said, and this is, and he forgot my name. You know why? Because he had been referring to me as Mom for the benefit of Arthur. Okay, it's like, do you need, what do you need? Do you want me to get Mom or something like that? He would talk to Arthur and call me Mom, right? Yeah, Howie's okay, Angie. Howie's okay. He went by ambulance to the Hull Hospital this morning. They did an angiogram. They found 3 severe blockages in 2 of the main arteries of his heart, and they put stents in. He's back in the Wakefield Hospital, and he should be home tomorrow or the next day. You miss driving up to visit Uncle Bob with the kids. I know. My dad was, But anyway, he came up, and I introduced him to Dad. And I couldn't believe that he came. To me, it was a great distance. He came all the way up to Apsley to scoop me and take me home. And that night, as we played euchre yet again in my living room, Arthur was in bed and we sat around a little table, a card table in my living room. And he said to me, will you be my old lady? And I looked at him and went, oh, okay. And then I looked at Carrie and said, I'm going steady. And I was like so excited. I went to put my head down. I bounced my head off the table. I was like I was so girly. I'd never been so girly in my life. And thank you, Julie. And he said, and I said, I'm going steady. And I got all excited. And he put his hand over my hand on the table. And he said, no, you're not going steady. When I say my old lady, I mean, you're my old lady. You are the one I come home to. You're the one I come to. No one else. You're the one I give my heart to, my secrets, my soul, all these things. You'd never know how eloquent he was when he was drinking, right? Thank you, Malka. Hi, darling. How are you? So, I have lots of stories, and not all of them are pleasant. Some of them are just ridiculously funny. Some of them are ridiculously frightening at how stupid we were. But the truth, okay, Wendy, I love you. The truth of the matter is, folks, I turned down more than one proposal before I met Howie. And now, when he asked me to be his old lady, I understood why. Because he was all I ever wanted and all I ever needed. And he looked nothing about like my ideal man. I felt like Anna Green Gables, right? I wanted tall, dark, sparkling teeth, blue eyes, dark hair, I get this guy, he's only 1 inch taller than me. He looks like a leprechaun. With, at the time he had fairly gnarly teeth and you know what I mean? It's like brown eyes and a beer belly, and it didn't matter one bit. Your heart knows when it's met its match. And too many people get married thinking that romantic love is all there is to it. Let me give you a nickel's worth of free advice if you're not married. Okay? Marriage is a lot of work interspersed by moments of pure joy. And when you guys are pulling, you got to make sure that you are compatible. Love is not enough. You have to be compatible. Why? Because you're both pulling in the harness at the same time. And if one gives up, it doesn't matter how hard the other pulls. Okay? But the secret of all is never to fall out of love at the same time. Because there's times when you're just going to absolutely not want to even look at your spouse. Okay? And they will take up the harness and pull harder. Okay? And then when you are strong and they are having a hard time, you can pull up the slack. But the trick is you both have to always be going in the same direction. Right? The heart knows what it wants, knows what it needs, and I'm very well convinced that this is not the first time that Howie and I have been fated together over the realms, right? All right, listen, we are going to have Freaky Friday tomorrow. We're going to have Freaky Friday tomorrow. Unless Howie's home and he needs to rest, okay? But it doesn't mean we can't have music and we can't celebrate, okay? Because if I've been telling you to celebrate all the little victories, this is a really friggin' big one. This is a really big one. It's always a work in progress, Angie. Absolutely. He looked at you and saw his world too. You weren't the only one with jello knees. That man can make my heart turn over just walking in the door. Just showing up in chat. No, Freaky Friday is for patrons only. The only reason it was on last weekend is because I was at the racetrack and I couldn't run my patrons. But the truth is, there's a lot of nasty people out there. That Freaky Friday just isn't for everybody. And so patrons, when we do a live stream, it's what you see here, what you hear here stays here when you leave here. Okay? It's completely unlisted, and it's not that you guys aren't my family, because you are, but it's my inner circle of support on YouTube. And so yes, I do live streams here on Thursdays and Sundays, but it's, Freaky Fridays, Mondays, and Wednesdays. And once a month, when I get my studio set up downstairs, I will be doing live card readings in Glamour, and I'll be doing it for tips. I'm not charging, but tips will get cards read, because that's just going to be a once a month thing, right? I'm expanding my horizons. I'm taking back my joy of color and connecting with the realms and connecting with Mother Earth and connecting with everybody. It's really, really important. And if this happened now, this is one of those negative things that has been already looked after. It could have been so much worse. So I have nothing to be upset about, and everything to be thankful for. So, for all those, but it's going to be live publicly once a month. It's just patrons are going to get it more often, and they're usually there when I'm putting the makeup on, so that I can, they're vetting my makeup process and everything. I mean, they're my support team, right? You want to be a part of that support team? That's great. It costs you a cup of coffee, like a Starbucks cup of coffee a month. I'm no longer going to deface or I am no longer going to say no to opportunity. I'm going to embrace it and go with it. And anybody who thinks that I'm just playing dress up, well, maybe I am. But the truth is, that girl is free. And she gets to play. Right? So, I mean, you are lucky, and so is Howie. I understand about Freaky Friday. But, I mean, once in a blue moon, there'll be a Freaky Friday that's public because we're at the track or something. That's fine. Right? But this is actually a lot of work for me, because I'm going to be going down the basement and setting up a studio and a green screen and learning how it works and doing makeup and going into glamour and into a character, and not famous characters that whatever is born through the makeup and the wigs, the characters will come out on their own. Because pretty sure I got more than one in there, right? I always thought it was a multiple personality. But the truth is, it's a lot of work. And my patrons pay for that. You know, they're the reason I got a purple wig and a red wig and a lilac wig and a lapis turquoise wig and a Marilyn Monroe blonde wig. Yeah, they're all cheap wigs. But this is me coming into my light and sharing it. Because there is joy. And if anybody comes in, this is why it's not going to be public more than once a month. Because if anybody comes in and sees me in makeup and colored wigs and in a character with a crystal ball and cards and all that stuff and goes, well, guess what? Then they're not there to be, they're not there to have fun and be joyful. They don't have to be there. They don't have to stay. I don't have energy for them. I have energy for the people who want to remember what it is like to feel the freedom and joy of a child. My child, I'm an adult, but my child is going to be given her colors back, her crayons back. You know what I mean? So, for all those who care to, oh no, see, that's the thing, Joe. That's the thing. People go, you know, there's a lot of nasty people out there, and they go, why? So you're clairvoyant now. Why this? Why now? If Angie's still here, Angela, are you still here? Be strong for my hubby, Bev. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I thank you, Laura. And that's true. Are you leaving, Seashell? Or is Minnesota Country Girl? Take care, sweetheart. This is not new. It's just my maturity level. And some people are going to think my maturity level has digressed. It has not. It has progressed. Okay? Progressed to the point for my 12 years on YouTube that I have now figured out the secret of dismissing and not allowing the negative crap to, I no longer feel it necessary to wear other people's negative opinions of me like a hair shirt. They can just move on, right? I'm no longer expending that energy. So I'm going to be here for the people who need it. I'm going to be here for the people who want it, but I'm also here for me. We're all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. Okay. Ask Angie. Angie said, I'm gonna quote you, Angie Passmore. And Bev has been doing this for years. I have been this way my whole life. If you've ever been at an in-law wedding with me, you'll have seen me in a tent reading people's palms. I actually read their energies more correctly. But I had that stuffed. And now it's always been there. But I had to spend 12 years on YouTube figuring out that it's taken me all this time to figure out that other people's opinions of me are none of my business. So that I just need to go on and go forward and be me. Be me. The me I have always been. You're just seeing more of me now. You're seeing me because I am now emotionally, mentally, and spiritually mature enough to handle what God has given me. Right? What the source of all has given me. And I'm going to run with it. And I'm still waiting for my pink wig to come in the mail. As a subscriber, I follow canning and prepping channels as well as card reading channels. To find out I can have both in one channel is epic. No, Cecil, it's not one channel. This channel here is Life with the Wolfies. You're going to see car racing. You're going to see building projects. You're going to see card readings. You're going to see me doing makeup, me coming out in makeup, and I'm coming out. I'm coming out of the closet. There you go. I'm coming out of the closet, and I am a starseed light worker, gift from God. Not gift from God. God has given me the gift. Okay? So live your best life. Absolutely. So daydream believer and a homecoming queen. I didn't see you there, honey. Hi. So there was some confusion in the beginning because on our half-acre homestead, the banner said Life with the Wolfies, and I was trying to change it into a new channel, but I realized nobody wanted to see all the other stuff, right? They just wanted me to continue homesteading and canning. Well, we don't raise animals anymore. I garden, I can, I cook, I quilt, I sew, but there is a there's diehard people with our half-acre homestead who don't want any more than that. They just want me to continue to be who I have always been for them. And I can do that now. Why? Because the rest of me gets to blossom on another channel called Life with the Wolfies. And it's all about life between now and retirement and how we are going to squeeze every moment of joy out of it that we can. With racing and makeup and wigs and reading cards and Freaky Friday. Because Freaky Friday is probably going to be a studio thing too. And when Angie sent me a green screen. Also, not only can she read beautifully, she can sing. Thank you, Laura. I understand and respect your stance. I just can't entertain the cards and stuff, but I love your wisdom and love. I'll just give via PayPal. Carol Josephson, thank you. Not everybody understands. And that is okay. My biggest lesson my biggest learning curve lately is to realize that there are no divisions between people. All right? You take what you want and you leave the rest. We don't have to put up walls. We don't have to say, I can get behind this, but I don't have to get behind that. Those are your choices. As long as nobody, okay, I have to rephrase that. Not everybody is going to understand my journey. Not everybody is going to understand where I go from here. And that's all right. I am not changing who I am. I'm just becoming more me. And not everybody can accept that. And that is absolutely okay. I have a message for everybody before I sign off. Every single person on this planet and beyond were born into a job on how this planet is going to run. And some of us are having high-speed spiritual awakenings, and some people are volunteers who say, okay, I can't get into card reading, I can't do that, it's not who I am, it's not what I believe, but I will still love you and support you in everything you do. It's like, fine, that's all I ask, right? That's all I ask, is to keep an open mind, and nobody is trying to make anybody believe something that they're not ready to be there for. Everybody has a job on this planet. And I'm not talking about your 9 to 5. I'm talking about we all have a place in the cogs of the machinery that are shaping what is to come on this planet. And whether or not you believe you have a job, that's okay. We believe for you. We trust that everybody is going to wake up or even just go forward with their everyday life being themselves, because that may be the only thing that is their job designation, right? Much more than just homesteading. I know that, Angie, but I mean, I had to be really, really careful because there are people in my family that are somewhat famous, right? So I spent the first 9 or 10 years on YouTube being very careful about not letting people know what my maiden name was, because I didn't want anybody to think of me for anything other than who I was. I didn't want to draw attention, or unwanted attention, to the other members of my family. Their privacy was my concern. So I kept myself very, very private, right? Now, doesn't matter. It does matter, but it doesn't matter, right? I don't say my maiden name. I go by my married name, Foley. My not alter ego, my AKA is Mrs. Wolfie, and that's how many of you know me by, right? But this, I'm telling you folks, nobody is excluded from what's happening on this planet. Nobody is excluded. We all have a job to do. Whether you realize it or not, you're probably just doing your job that God has designed for us. The job we chose before we were born. Okay? We all have our blueprints. And, we chose not to remember those blueprints when we were born. Why? Because we had to make our way in this world to this point in our lives. Time is not linear. Time just is. It is past, present, and future in this very moment. And this is the only moment we have. So, I'm going to celebrate every moment of my life. Yeah, I'm going to get stressed. Yeah, I'm not perfect. Yeah, I don't have all the answers. And nor friggin' do I want to have all the answers, because that's a big book. Okay? But the truth of the matter is, as long as I stick to my blueprint, my journey, do you want to know what my job is now? Besides, helping people to learn how to live more basically, and can, and cook, and health, and all these things, all right? My job from this point on, since I've had the spiritual awakening in the last 5 or 6 months, is to spread love and light and laughter and joy, and encourage people to celebrate even the smallest of victories, like finding Howie's keys after a winter being plowed up in the snowbank and them still working. That was a reason to celebrate. And the more we celebrate the little things in life with joy and abandon, the higher our vibration raises and the more joy we are given. Why? Because it is its own self-sustaining energy. Whereas negativity needs to be fed, or it needs to siphon off of other people. Whereas positive energy is constantly renewing it because you're sharing it. There is only subtraction and division with negative energy. With positive energy and love and the light of love of the Creator, God, okay, the Creator of all, with love and light, it's constantly multiplication and addition, and it spreads. Yes, negativity is easier to spread, and it fasts, and it does more damage. But every time we have a positive moment, we are feeding our inner light that God has given us to share. Do you feel me? Woo! Wow, that was a good one. All right, listen. The law of attraction, you call it whatever you want. I'm only using words that have been given to me because that's all I can, how the only way I can describe things. Okay? So if I say light worker or star seed, it doesn't, or, just don't call me a witch because that's not who I am. Witch means wise woman or wise elder, basically. It's all been rewritten over time. Okay? But the truth is, never let anybody siphon off your light. Shut that door. And you can put up a hand and you say, I can love you, but you're toxic, so I'm going to love you from over here. Right? And you need to protect your light. You really need. Thank you, Malka. So I'm sorry I've been on here for an hour and a half, but this is the best I felt in a long time. And it wasn't a near miss feeling. It was, I knew God had it. I knew God had it. And no matter what happened, I was going to be okay. I had people saying, do you want me to come? Raph, my mother-in-law, Mary Jane, my sister. And it's like, no, I got this. I got Spirit. I've got the Creator. He's got my back. I got Christ. He's got my back. Okay? All I needed help with was, dealing with my anxiety, my really bad anxiety at not being able to be there and lay hands on him. We all knew he'd be okay, just have to recuperate. And no matter what happens, I will always be okay. I'll always be okay. Why? Because everything happens the way and when and where it's supposed to happen. And I'm celebrating that my husband is alive and they didn't have to crack open his chest. Hallelujah. 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 So protect your light. I will do a video eventually for Life with the Wolfies. I showed it on Patreon yesterday. Or was it Monday? It was yesterday. Before I got the phone call. I don't know. I can't remember. My time's all messed up. It is hard to be apart from Howie, but it's not. Why? Because he's safe. He's being cared for. I can talk to him now. I have touched him. I'm okay. My soul touched his soul when I got to touch him, and we are reconnected, and I'm okay. Okay? I'm going to go take care of myself. I'm going to go. I've already had my swim. That's why my hair's in a braid. I'm going to go load my dishwasher and heat up some supper that I made yesterday that I forgot to eat. I'm going to heat up some supper. And then I'm going to make some phone calls. I might crawl into bed early and just have a talk with Howie. But I'll text him first. Because if he doesn't respond, then he's resting and I'll leave him be. Hi, Carrie Ramsey. Well, yes, but the truth about dark forces and light is dark forces. Now hear me. We choose how to let that shit affect us. Okay? Yes, I was allowing my not being able to get to Howie affect me, but I wasn't allowing worry over his welfare to affect me because I did my job. I made him go to the hospital, right? So, but I could have been rolling in agony, tearing my hair out for what? There was nothing I could do except be present in the moment and pay attention to what I'm being told by God and by the doctors and by my husband, right? So I'm whole again. I got to see for myself that he's okay. I'm whole again, right? Anyway, I have to go. Yeah, I'm sweating. I'm not crying. So for all those who care to, please help me close with a spiritual push of light to each other and to the world. And forgive me if I start this prayer off with gratitude. You do not have to stay for this. There is no judgment if this is not for you and you want to leave. But anybody who wants to stay, I'm going to ask you at the end, I'm going to ask you to link hearts and hands with me across the world. Okay? Because we're all over. And we're going to lean on our faith to fill us with God's light. And when we join hands, we are going to amplify God's light, and we're going to push it out to the world. Okay, so it's imagery you need. Think of a ball of light. Once we connect hands and God starts to flood us with his light, the ball of light starts to circulate as it builds in power until we are no longer visible. We are just a big ring of light, and we can't contain it, and we can push it out. And that's how this works for me. Okay, it is not a cult. It is not a religion. It is just people who have a love-based faith coming together and raising our vibrations to the world. Okay? So, thank you, Patricia. Take care. God bless. Love always wins. Love may not always be enough. Okay? You can love, but your actions also have to echo your love. Do you know what I mean? You got to back it. It's like putting your money where your mouth is, right? And I don't mean money. I mean, you know, I risked a lot coming out of the closet this way. But it's okay because I'm able to deal with it now. I'm able to open up and say, I am who I am, and I appreciate and love you people for just being a part of my life. Okay? All right, nice deep breath. Creator of us all, creator of all, and your son who came to this earth to teach us how to love properly. Thank you, God, for my friends and my family, my YouTube family, for being here and loving and supporting us as we go through this difficult time. It's going to get easier, God. Already. It's already much, much easier to bear because we know everything is going according to your plan. But God, there are a lot of people out there who are having trouble finding their light. Maybe because they're dealing with someone, a loved one who is very ill, or maybe they're ill themselves and dealing with a loved one who is very ill. Or maybe they're alone or rejected or neglected or frightened or abused or addicted. God, we just want to lift those people up to you so that the light of your love can fill them and pour the balm of your love over their battered souls and hearts and bodies. And even if they don't know you're there, God, we do. And that's why we're lifting them up to you. But God, we got one more step. We are going to link hearts, God, and we're going to link hands across the world. And we are going to ask you to flood us with light as our connected hands make a connected circuit. And as we spread out in a big circle, God, fill us with the light of your love and joy and peace and healing. And let it build in us as we see this ball of light go through us and through us, and it circles and it circles and it circles, and it builds up speed and it builds up power until we are hidden and we are in just one big donut of divine light, and it's so bright we can no longer contain it, and we give it away in one big push to the world. And that creates a dome for people who are struggling to take shelter under until they've got their feet and their hearts and their souls aligned. It's a place for people who are confused to shelter without the negativity of the world eating at them and making them guess and second guess their own instincts for your love. And that bubble bounces off the negativity. They can throw their darts and they can claw at this beautiful, clear bubble of protection. But we have the highest protection of all. We have you, God. And let them slink back into the darkness and worry on each other's bones, not ours. Even though we know they have a place in the balance of all things, God, we just don't need them under our dome. So we give them to you. Thank you, God. Man. Shalom. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Shalom. Namaste. Merry meet. Merry part. Miigwech. Peace be with you. Go with God. In the name of Christ, whatever your salutation is, when we come together and we link, we become more powerful in God's light and in his works. So thank you for being here with me. Take care. God bless. And what's today? Oh, tomorrow's Freaky Friday. Stay tuned. All my videos on our half-acre homestead and everything are going to be hit and miss until I have my house in order for Howie to come home to. All right? That means I got to change his bed and all that stuff. I want to vacuum and clean and make sure everything's ready for my baby to come home. All right? I love you guys. Take care. God bless. And thank you again and again and again for being a huge supporter of my light. Remember, when you have hope, you have faith. And when you have faith, there is nothing we can't do. Take care. God bless. Thanks be to God. How do I shut this? Okay.